Does this bill in any way affect the purchase requirements to buy a firearm?
No, it does not.
Does the bill change the age requirements to buy a firearm?
No, it does not.
Does the bill change the waiting periods for the purchase of a firearm?
No, it does not.
And does the bill change the types of firearms that are legal to be sold in the state of Illinois?
No, it does not.
Thank you for those. To the bill.
The bill.
I pledged long ago to support and protect the Second Amendment, and I believe I'm going to fulfill that duty here today. But when we talk about the Second Amendment, I think we get a little confused about what it means. So, fortunately, we have a roadmap. The roadmap comes from a decision called the District of Columbia versus Heller. It was written by a fairly conservative justice, Antonin Scalia. And I want to read just a little bit of it. He says, like most rights, the right secured by the Second Amendment is not unlimited. The right was not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever, in any manner whatsoever, for whatever purpose. He goes on to say, although we do not undertake an exhaustive historical analysis of the full scope of the Second Amendment, nothing, in our opinion, should be taken to cast doubt on the long-standing prohibitions on the possession of firearms by felons, the mentally ill, laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places, such as schools or government buildings, or, pertinent to this bill, laws imposing conditions and qualifications on the commercial sale of arms. So to me, ladies and gentlemen, this bill is not impacting our Second Amendment rights. Now, those who are gun advocates might say, well, they might disagree with me, but they'd be wrong. But the reality is we're talking about more than the Second Amendment. When we go beyond that, when we say we're talking about more firearm rights than the Second Amendment requires, now I have to look at it from a policy perspective. Is it a good policy or is it a bad policy? If it's a good policy, I'm going to vote for it. If it's a bad policy, I'm going to vote against it. But this is not a Second Amendment debate, in my opinion. As I look at this bill, it is clear that we have not done enough in the state of Illinois. And we cannot simply rely on the federal law and the federal structure to protect our state. Doing the same thing, or in this case, doing nothing beyond what we already do, is the definition of insanity. Is this bill perfect? Probably not. But you know what? It imposes continuing education requirements. It imposes background checks on the employees who work in the facilities. It has a very minimal fee, $200 per year, and it requires videotaping and recording of FOID cards for purchasers. The most important part of all of that to me is the continuing education, because what the continuing education will do is ensure that the gun dealers themselves will employ those best practices to root out the straw purchasers, to root out the people who shouldn't be buying those guns. This is a good bill, and quite frankly, we just need to act. And if it isn't enough, or if it's too much, we'll figure that out. But doing nothing is no longer an option. It just is not. There's been too many repetitious tragedies throughout the country. We have to do something. This is something. I urge an aye vote. Thank you.